My name's Heather. I've been married for 29 years, have 2 adult kids. I work at Coca-Cola here in Portsmouth, Ohio, going on my 24th year, and I'm also a yoga teacher. So I just turned 50 back in December, and I already knew I was down the road of like losing muscle, bones, becoming a little bit softer. Probably started on that when I was like 35. So I knew that I was going to have to do something to prolong my life. I was already eating okay, running, cycling, yoga, but I knew I needed to gain muscle. And this is where I knew I needed to come. And not only gain muscle, but do it safely. So before I came here, it was, I had already been meal prepping for about 3 years. And I had been doing intermittent fasting also for about 3 years. As far as my exercise, it was mostly cardio, yoga, but I was missing the lifting. I could go to a gym and, do some weights, but I knew it wasn't enough. I had to lift heavy. I had to lift heavy in order to build this muscle that I was lacking. So whenever I started coming here, I found out real quick that the way I was eating before was no longer going to work because it was not enough fuel. So I kind of tweaked it a little bit. First thing was I wasn't eating enough protein. I was eating protein, but I bumped it up to where and I still eat my body weight in protein every day. So I was doing that, and then it progressed into I needed more carbs. So then I switched it up to where, like I just brought me a banana in so I could have it before my workout. And then I actually keep a little basket in the passenger side of my seat, and I've had it in there for 2 or 3 years. And it's everything that I eat in a day, stuff that I can grab. I've got rice cakes and dates and things. So everything's kind of planned around my workout. So I started looking at more of the carbs instead of just the protein. And I can tell if I kind of get off of it a little bit, if I'm not paying attention, if I'm not refueling enough, I can feel it. The recovery is a lot different, and even the workout's different. Well, I've always been thin, but over the past few years, I'd gotten thinner. I'd already been eating what I felt like was okay. I'd been doing intermittent fasting, a lot of cardio, but just doing stuff even at home, not just at work, but even at home, just trying to lift stuff. Opening a jar was almost impossible. I wouldn't even try it anymore. I would just hand it to somebody that's in the kitchen. And that's one thing you don't really think about is your grip strength. I didn't really have much of a grip strength. So at the time, like I said, I've always been familiar with Pskc, and I knew when I did finally get over here that, this is where I was going to be. The coaches have been here doing this for years. They know what they're doing, and I knew I could come over here and not get injured and do things safely. But when I started, I had a coworker that was already coming here. So I had a buddy, and a buddy system always works really good. So she would show up here same time I would, and then eventually she set me free, and I would watch the workouts and think, well, I can't do that. There's no way I could do that. But once I got over here, everybody's doing their own version of the workout. Everybody has their hard. My hard may be this, but this person's hard may be that. So don't ever get the idea that you can't do something. We scale, like I said, I started with the bar. Humbling, and they continue to humble you, but in a good way. But it was very eye-opening. I knew whenever I came here, I knew I was weak, I felt weak, but when I came in here and was attempting the workouts, that's when I really knew where I was at, health-wise. Probably when I first started here, the first few weeks, just talking to the coaches, that's when I started upping the protein. So I knew if I was going to be able to gain any muscle, I was going to have to increase that protein, because it was kind of, I don't want to say it was pointless, but it was going to be a lot harder to do without the extra protein. Well, I feel like it was the energy immediately, just because of the atmosphere, and like just me coming into that garage door that day was an accomplishment for me at the time. And it was probably a couple months as far as the muscle building goes. I started to notice it in my shirts. My arms were kind of starting to fill out. And then as far as the workout goes, everything sometimes here is your max out. When I first started, my max out was the bar. There was no weight on it. That was where I was at, just to kind of put it in perspective. Just every week, it's just, just gradually adding weight. It's nothing that's gonna or happened overnight for me, but it's a process, and you just gotta be committed and show up. One thing I did notice as I started to gain muscle, I've had issues with arthritis, inflammation, joints, not painful, but just flares here and there. The increase of muscle has helped support not only my skeleton and my joints. I have had some relief in my knees, hips, because now I just have that little extra protection, little extra, muscle that's helping along the way. Most people want to come in here and lose weight. I was on the cardio side of it, but now that I've got on the lifting side of it, both of them complement each other extremely. So I still run. I'm not going to give up my running. But now, since we've had all the snow and everything, I wasn't able to run outside. So typically if I would go several weeks and not run, it would not be pretty. So when I ran last weekend, I actually didn't feel too bad. And I think it's because where I've been doing cardio here, doing my lifting here. Before, whenever I'd run, it was just all legs. Now I feel it's my entire body moving. Since I started, I don't want to say that I'm not proud of myself, but I'm a creature of habit, and I like structure. So, I go to bed at the same time. I'm going to sound really old here in a minute. I wake up at the same time. I eat lunch at the same time, and I go to the gym at the same time, 4 p.m., Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I guess what I'm most proud of is the fact that I can actually do some of the stuff that when I first walked in, I'm like, there's no way I could ever do that. Well, here I am, however many months later, actually doing those movements that I had doubted myself that I could do before. That would be discipline. So like I said, I come here at 4 p.m., Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. My day is planned around me getting to the gym by 4 p.m. If that means I have to start at work at 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m., I plan my day to where at 4 p.m., this is where I'm at. Like I said, I start off with a buddy, and not everybody has that, but I feel like everybody knows somebody that works out. Somebody they know that they feel like leads a healthy lifestyle. So I don't feel like it ever hurt to maybe reach out to that person. Like, hey, maybe ask for a little bit of help, or just, maybe to meet them at the gym. I would think that a good person would be willing to take somebody by the arm and kind of help them along the way. Well, I will say, as far as, someone looking at it and thinking they may not be able to do it because of maybe they have a lack of mobility in their shoulder. I have a lack of mobility in my right wrist. That was another thing. I'm like, well, I can't do that because of my wrist. There are so many different ways to scale and modify around what issues you may be having as far as mobility. So don't feel like because you have a bum shoulder or a bum knee, you can still do this workout.